When it comes to advice about SEO, there's a lot of information out there about how to optimize your WordPress website. And I'm guilty of this too. My last couple of videos have been all about different WordPress SEO plugins. But in each of those videos, I'll say to you, and if you don't want to learn how to do this, you should just go to Squarespace and put your website over there. And every time I do, people are commenting, hey, how about a video for Squarespace? Hey, what do you do with this on Squarespace? So that's what this video is for you guys today. Leave the comments. I'll create more content for you, but today is all about how to make sure that your Squarespace website shows up in search results. So stick with me and I'll show you right after this. Hey, I'm Meg Casebolt from Love at First Search, where we help online entrepreneurs show up in search results and then take those new visitors and turn them into leads, subscribers, and sales. Today, I'm going to be talking all about the things that you can do on your Squarespace website to make sure that it shows up in those search results. If you're running an online business, you probably want to spend most of your time actually running the business, whether that's providing services to your clients, meeting people in an online membership, shipping out physical products. You don't want to spend a ton of time on your marketing. And so you may set up your website on a done-for-you, out-of-the-box solution like Squarespace because you don't want to spend a ton of time figuring out all your plugins and all the different ways that they could be incompatible with each other. So if you decide to build your website on Squarespace, the benefit is that a lot of that stuff is taken care of for you. As I've talked about in previous videos, there are things that Google looks for in every website regardless of where it's hosted. Things like how quickly it loads, whether it looks good on a cell phone, whether it's secure or not. And to a great extent, a lot of that stuff is taken care of for you through Squarespace. All of their templates are mobile friendly, so you don't have to worry about it. It's really easy to turn on your SSL, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. And for the most part, Squarespace pages load a little bit slower than a perfectly optimized WordPress page, but there are also some things that you can do to make sure that your website loads quickly. So a lot of those concerns that the WordPress people are really having to worry about, it's already taken care of for you with Squarespace, which is awesome. That gives you more time to do your business, to do your work. But there also aren't SEO plugins that you can have pop up on your screen and say, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So you need to learn some of these rules. And I'm going to show you in this video the things that you can do for your entire site in order to make sure that it is optimized for search and that Google knows exactly where you are, to make sure that it taps into the Google tools like Google Analytics and Google Search Console, and to make sure that every page on your site is optimized. Now, even though on Squarespace you don't necessarily need to worry about page load time, there's not a lot that you can do, it is still important that if you're uploading images, you make them as small and compressed as possible. That doesn't mean we want them to be so small that they're pixelated, but if you're downloading it from Canva and you can press the little button at export that says compress this file, that's definitely a good thing, because then Squarespace won't have to work as hard to make sure that those files don't take forever to load. Also, if you're embedding any videos on your Squarespace site, make sure to upload a custom thumbnail with them. If you don't do that, then Squarespace will go grab the thumbnail image from YouTube or Vimeo or wherever that video is hosted, and that little bit of time that it takes to go pull that image every time somebody loads the page will slow down the load of that page, even if people don't watch the video. So those are two little image tips for you. And before we get started with the tutorial, I want to answer a question that comes up for me a lot, which is, if I'm on Squarespace, do I still need Google Analytics, or are Squarespace Analytics enough? And the answer is, if all that you're going to do is everything lives on Squarespace, if you just are getting people to fill out your contact form on Squarespace, or if every product that you're ever going to sell is on Squarespace and all of your marketing happens on Squarespace, then Squarespace Analytics is enough. However, if you're doing any sort of marketing efforts that aren't happening on Squarespace, if you're running a virtual summit, if you're going on podcast episodes, if you want to sell things on another site, if you want to track anything that's happening from your email marketing, then it's a really good idea to have Google Analytics installed also. You can definitely look at your Squarespace Analytics. Maybe you don't even want to log into Google Analytics because everything's right there on your Squarespace dashboard. That's okay. But there are ways that you can track off-page marketing on Google Analytics that you just can't do on Squarespace. So I do recommend, even if you like the dashboard and the interface of Squarespace Analytics a little bit more, I still do want you to have a Google Analytics account, and I want it to be installed on your Squarespace website. The numbers won't line up exactly. Squarespace and Google are looking at slightly different things and counting things in different ways. So if you are in fact going to look at one or the other, they're not going to be apples to apples comparisons. That's okay. That's totally normal. Just make sure that if you're doing an April comparison to May, you're looking at Squarespace or Google only. You're not trying to compare them against each other because they're going to be slightly off. So there's my disclaimer about connecting this to your Google Analytics account. Even if you only ever look at your Squarespace Analytics, please connect your Google account anyway. So let me show you. All right, normally when I do these walkthrough videos, I show you on my website, but since my website's built on WordPress, I asked my good friend Erica Tebbins if we could use her website for this example, and she agreed. So if you don't know Erica already, go listen to her podcast right now. I'll share that page with you so you've got it, but it's called Sell It Sister. It's amazing. She's such a great business strategist, but I'm not just here to talk about how awesome Erica is. I want to also show you some things that you can do to make sure that your website is set up for success. So the first thing to do are some of these site-wide settings. Come on over here to settings, and we're going to start with the advanced setting here. Come down here and turn on your SSL. You may have heard me talk about SSLs before. This is the part that makes sure that your website starts with HTTPS, not HTTP. And by turning this on, you make it more likely that people will look at the secure version of your website, and your website will also be less likely to be hacked. I also recommend turning on this HSTS secure setting. What this will do is make sure that if people have a choice between the insecure and the secure version of your website, it will force them to look at the secure version, so you're less likely to get hacked. As long as we're in the settings, I want to show you exactly how to install your Google Analytics. It's right here. Boom. Now we've blurred out Erica's number here to make sure that you're not going to go install her number on your website. You're going to go into your Google Analytics, come down here to your admin, come up here to the middle column, and in the tracking info section, you'll see your tracking code right here. You can copy that it's right here. Take that tracking code information, you can copy it right here into the Google Analytics account number, and that will start Google Analytics logging on your Squarespace website. And as long as we're talking about Google, let's talk about getting your Squarespace website connected to your Google Search Console. And this will tell you all of the search terms that people are looking for on Google, and you're showing up in those search results. It'll basically take all the information from the Google Search Console video that I did and import it right into your Squarespace dashboard. So it can be really helpful. Come over here to the home setting, Analytics, and come to search keywords. And if you don't have Google Search Console connected here yet, it should have something really easy here that says, yes, you can connect to it. Either connect it for the first time or reconnect it. If you don't have this connected yet, make sure that you're logged into the Gmail account or the Google account that you want to use. Come over here into your Squarespace Analytics, give it allow, and within about 48 to 72 hours, you'll start to see that information pull from Google Search Console into your Squarespace dashboard. Oh. And there it is. I was already connected to Erica's Google Search Console, so you can kind of get an idea here of what are the things that Erica's showing up for. She's doing really well for the term bro marketing, so that's always a good sign. And small business strategist, you can see the specific things that Erica is showing up for, what page they're going to, how many people have clicked, how many people have seen it. This is the same information that we have in that Google Search Console video, which I'll link to right above. It pulls right into Squarespace Analytics, so you don't have to skip back and forth between both places. If you're running a local business, there are two pieces of information I want you to include. One is here under settings and business information. If you have a storefront that has specific hours that you work, I encourage you to put in your phone number, your physical location, and your business hours. If you're like Erica and you're like, I work online, I don't really want everybody getting all this information about me, you can just put in your town. She's in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Apparently she forgot the I in it, so it's showing up as New York, but Ypsilanti. There you go. And the other thing that I want for those of you who are running local businesses who want people to find you in something like Google Maps is I want you to come over here to the location management, and you can actually connect your Squarespace website to your Google My Business account. And that will help you show up in Google Maps and make sure that Google knows that your website is the same as your Google My Business. If you already have a Google My Business account, you can just come down here and click import from Google. If you haven't set this up already, Squarespace will go in in and create it for you. Basically, you can click the create new location and it will help you set up your Google My Business account right here in Squarespace. If you're running an online business, you don't necessarily want to get that local traffic or show up on Google Maps, then you don't need to worry about this step. And to make sure that your website has consistent SEO in mind, come here to marketing and come to the SEO section. And from here, you'll see the ways that you can set up your default settings for the SEO listings on your page. So Erica said that the name of her page is Erica Tebbins Consulting. Here is her default meta description. So if she doesn't go through on any page and specifically say this is the title and this is the meta description for this page, then this is what will show up. The same for this is her homepage listing. This is any page that she's on. It will include the page title. Here is the default. And for any items that she might be selling in her e-commerce shop, this is the default setting. Obviously, you can go into those specific pages and posts and items and make changes on a case-by-case basis. This is just setting the default settings for your entire website. So let's talk about what happens when you have a specific page that you want to optimize for. I'll go over to Erica's podcast page. Looks like she just hit her 100th episode. So that is awesome. So every single one of these pages can be optimized. The show notes that go along with these episodes and the actual podcast page can be optimized. And the way to do that is to come right here to this little gear guy and push that. And then you'll see that this page setting listing comes up. You can change out the page title and the slug and all those good things. But really the space where I want you to think about when you're thinking about those Google search results is coming to the SEO settings. You can see Erica has a specific SEO title for the podcast. This is Sell It Sister, a podcast to boost sales confidence for women entrepreneurs. That's what will show up in this blue part here. And then here is the slug and the URL in the green. And then she didn't put in a specific SEO description here, so she could put in exactly what she wants people to see. If you want to put in a meta description, I don't know why Squarespace says 400 characters here. What I've read pretty much everywhere is we want to keep this to about 150 characters, and you want to use this meta description space to explain to people what they would get when they get to this page and how to click through on what to expect when they click through on it. And then down here we have this little toggle that says hide page from search results. Now, there are some pages on your site that you do want to show up in search results, like your homepage or a podcast listing or a specific sales page. You want people to find it on search. But then there are also pages that don't necessarily need to show up in search results. So any of your legal disclaimers, or if you have a landing page for a specific opt-in that you only want to drive traffic from social media for, like a webinar that's only going to be happening for a week, you can turn off the indexing of Google looking at that, and that way it won't slow down the load time of your page at all. So if you want it to show up on Google, don't click this. But if it's not something that people are going to be searching for anyway, you can turn this off. Or if you have multiple versions of the same page, A/B testing different things on a page, turn them off or turn one of them off. So that way Google doesn't think that you're duplicating your content. And then when it comes time to start optimizing your specific pages and posts, you can go into the post that you want to update and come right here to post and edit. And the screen will look very similar here, where you can come into settings. And instead of it being on the sidebar, now with the new version of Squarespace, it has the tabs on the top, but it's the same thing here where we want to, if you want a specific SEO title to show up or a specific description, you can do that down here. You can also make sure that your social images look okay, all those good things. Here's where to find that for specific blog posts in the most recent update of Squarespace. Now, unfortunately, Squarespace doesn't have that plugin that will sit there and remind you, hey, do you have any subheadings that you want to put keywords into or alt text that you want to include on your images? So that's something you just got to keep in mind. You can download my free checklist in order to have something to consult while you're doing these on-page optimization tasks. That's a fancy way of saying putting keywords into blog posts. But basically, you want to follow the same rules that are true for every website, making sure that you have keywords in your subheading. If you have any particular images, you can come into the image and click the edit button. So one of the best things you can do when it comes to optimizing your pages is to make sure that every image on your site has alt text. What alt text will do is it will tell Google what's in the image, and it will also show up for people who have screen readers, have visual impairments. It'll make it easy for them to know what's happening in that image. So go to edit and then click on design. And in whatever the section is that you have, you can click inline and then come back over and do, I want my caption below it. And then if you want to write a caption, that will show up as your alt text here. That will basically function. Squarespace sort of does alt text and caption in the same way. So you can write the caption and then say, I want to turn the caption off. And it'll still function as an alt text and show up in those Google image search results, and Google can still read it. It just won't actually show up on the screen. So if you leave your captions on, it will show up on the screen. If you put in the caption but you turn it off, then Google will still read it. Screen readers will still be able to read it, but it won't actually show up on the regular version of your screen. So in addition to the pages on your site, your blog post, your show notes, whatever sort of content you're creating, you can also optimize any products that you have on your site. So come over here to the commerce page, you can go to inventory, and then you can go into any one of these things that you have, and you can optimize it in the same way that you would optimize a blog post. On older versions of Squarespace, it was a tab across the top. Now with the newest update, you can come right down here and you can put in your SEO title and your SEO description right here in the product settings. So in the same way that you would optimize a post, you can also optimize all your products so that if people are looking for a specific product in your inventory, they can then have that show up in search results as well. Another thing that I talk about a lot when it comes to SEO is what happens if you move pages around. And WordPress, they usually have plugins where you can just say, I want things to go from here to here. With Squarespace, it's a little bit more complex. You want to come into settings, advanced URL mappings, and then you actually have to type in what the page used to be. So you would do basically the part that comes after the domain. So that's the old page. And then you want to do like an arrow shape, so it's the dash and then the close bracket and then the new page, and then type the redirect type, which in this case is 301. For the most part, you're going to be doing 301 redirects, which means I've moved it forever. It's not just a temporary thing, which would be a 302. When you're not sure, just put in a 301 redirect. I know it's not easy, but it really is important that if you're moving things around on your website, you come in and you do this step, because this is what will make sure that if you move something, anything that was directing to the old page will then move to the new page. Remember that whatever platform you're on, Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, Weebly, whatever your nephew makes in his basement, the same rules apply. You still have to tell Google exactly what you want to be found for and do the keyword research and put that information in the right places on your site. So if this video was helpful, please like it, leave some comments below about the things that you learned from it. And if you want more SEO tips like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be back next week with even more SEO tips for you. See you then.